Good morning. In fact, a very pleasant morning today is, and it's a nice time and even a right time to start with your English chapter, and that is Lost Spring. Although there is no spring this time, but yes, let's do it with the chapter only and bring that spring back. Let's begin. The name of the chapter is Lost Spring, written by Anise Jung. Anise Jung is a female Indian writer. She's not only writer but journalist and a columnist too. She belongs to an aristocratic family. Father Nawab Hoshiar Jung was a renowned scholar and poet. He was Musahib, that's advisor to the last Nizam of Hyderabad. She did her graduation from Osmania University, Hyderabad. After that, she went to USA for post-graduation, which she did in sociology. She started her career with Youth Times, although she came into limelight with the book Unveiling India, which is a travel diary in which she talks about the life of women in India. Being women, she has mostly written about women. Some of her books on women are Night of the New Moon, Seven Sisters, Breaking the Silence. She is noted for writing lively and vivid descriptions. But there has always been a problem, and that is she writes about problems, adversities, but never gives the solution, leaves everything on us. As is the case in the present lesson, that is Lost Spring, which is an extract from Anise Jung's book Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood, where she talks about the underprivileged or have-nots. Do you know anything about them? Have you seen them? Yes, you might have in the movie called as Traffic Signal. This movie actually shows their life, how they live. And here are some pictures which will tell you about these people. Just see, they are paper-like thin. It seems they are wearing skin over bones. They lack basic amenities of life: food, shelter, clothing, above all, education. They, at a very tender age, have to earn livelihood, so education is just a dream for them. They live in the mud houses with no drinking water and no drainage system. That's the cunning life. So Anise Jung, who met them, discusses with them and writes about them. The lesson has been given the name Lost Spring because there's a reason for it. As spring is the season of color, joy and happiness, so is our childhood. After a tough winter, the change in the nature depicted through blooming flowers, fresh green foliage, insects and creatures basking in the sun are a welcome sight. Similarly, childhood is the spring of one's life. Everyone enjoys watching, playing and laughing children as they are a happy sight. But when childhood is burdened with hardships and difficulties of life, then childhood appears to be a curse. Hence, the chapter has been given the name Lost Spring because these underprivileged children have actually lost their childhood. That is the spring of their lives. There are two stories in it. One talks about Simapuri and the other talks about Firozabad. The first part of this Simapuri deals with the story of Sahib-e-Alam, the rag picker of Simapuri. He scrounges garbage daily looking for something to sell. An expatriate from Dhaka, where his house and fields have been swept away by storms. He was now settled in Simapuri, a ghost town languishing on the periphery of Delhi, without any good housing, drainage, sewage or running water, along with 10,000 other rag pickers. The author asks him why He did not attend school, not realizing that if he did have the money for school, he would. Why would he dig in garbage dumps in the first place? The most important and irony of the story is name is Sahib-e-Alam, which means king of the universe. But our Sahib-e-Alam is a rag picker. He's just 10-year-old who has no shoes to wear, who has no proper clothes to wear, but named Sahib-e-Alam. When the children were asked the reason for not wearing slippers, the writer was given different excuses, such as mother's not giving slippers, lack of money, following the tradition of remaining bare feet. For the people of Simapuri, food was more important for survival than an identity. And that's why they have been provided these ration cards from which they just get food. But identity? No, they're still without an identity. These ration cards are provided by these politicians so that they could get their votes. And that's what it is. The writer later on came to know that this garbage has different meaning for elders and different for the small children. For the children, this was full of wonder, as they sometimes could find 10 rupee note in it, or sometimes discarded shoes from the rich. That's why it was full of wonders. But for the adults, it was means of livelihood. It was the thing on which the entire life is dependent. Later, the author saw Sahib-e-Alam working in Melport, where he was earning 800 rupees a month and getting good meals. She asked Sahib-e-Alam if he was happy with it. But she could realize that that innocence of the face was nowhere. It was lost somewhere. Because the canister that Sahib-e-Alam was carrying seemed heavier to him than that bag which he used to carry on shoulders. Because the canister belonged to someone else and bag that he carried on shoulders belonged to him. He was working under someone, and that's why it was like a burden for him. The next story talks about Mukesh, or you can say Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Every other family in the town is engaged in this profession. It's the center of India's glass blowing industries. Families have spent generations working in these furnaces. They have been welding glass and making bangles for all the women in India. Bangle making is not confined to adults only. Over 20,000 children join their parents in this show. They work illegally in the glass furnaces with high temperature. They're exposed to all health hazards. These factories are in stinking lanes choked with garbage. They work in dingy rooms with no windows and outlets for fresh air. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That's why many of them end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. When asked, why can't they change their profession? Why can't they do something else? They say, it's God-given lineage, and how can they break it? They can't dare to change it. Some say, it's our karma. We must have done something at the past. That's why we're facing this trouble. And then the most important reason, and that is the vicious circle of exploitation, which includes sahukar, middlemen, police, bureaucrats, who suppresses and oppresses these bangle sellers and keeps them poverty stricken. They cannot but accept the subservience silently. Broken spirit, torment initiative, fear of being beaten and dragged to jail, absence of awareness and leadership only make matter. So, Jung wants that all disorganized small-scale units should be set free from the nexus of middlemen, politicians and police, and turned into cooperative societies, then only something can be done. Here, I want to tell you about Dr. Curran, who single-handedly and with great opposition from middlemen brought all the milk families of Gujarat under one umbrella and formed a cooperative society where each member was equal partner in profit. That's what Amul is about. Amul has become a global brand manufacturing milk powder, chocolates, butter, and cheese. Hence, such cooperative societies will not only help the concerned people but also the country and its economy. That's what these people want. These are the two most important stories that talk about these people, that talk about these underprivileged people. Now, what is important is that there is a dire need to provide these poverty stricken people, particularly children, a life of dignity and opportunities to dare dream. And here are some questions. Please go through it and just do it. If you have any sort of problem, do come. I will be there.